And Jesus said to him, "Get up, take up your bed and walk." And at once the man was healed, and he took up his bed and walked. Jesus doesn't need to wait for the water to be stirred. He doesn't even need the pool. By his word alone, he is able to say to this man who cannot move to move, who cannot walk to walk, who is dependent on others, able to lift up his bed and go on his way. By his word alone, he shows his power to heal and to save, his authority over all things. What we read in our Bible is what happened. Now, what happens in this story is we're told a little bit more about what this pool was used for. And there was this tradition, this understanding that went with this pool, that it had healing properties. In particular, what we read in the passage and from others' comments is there is this belief, an actual fact, that the water would stir on occasion. And they couldn't explain why. It wasn't windy at that time. The water would just move in a way that they could not explain. And so this superstition arose that what is happening is an angel of God is showing up and stirring the water. And when that happens, that is when this pool has healing properties. That if you can get to the water first before anyone else, well, that's going to heal you of all of your ailments. And for that reason, we read that all of these invalids are gathered around. They're described as blind, lame, and or paralyzed. These people who had these physical ailments would gather around the pools just waiting for that water to start stirring when no one could explain why. That if they can then get to the water before anyone else, well, that will make them healed. That was the superstition of the day. And we're introduced to a man around this pool who was waiting for that to happen, longing for the day that he might be healed. And we meet him in John 5, verse 5. It said, "One man was there who had been an invalid for 38 years. Now we're introduced to him, but there's still quite a bit that we don't know about him. For one, he's not named. He's not a named person in this story. Second, we don't know fully what his ailment would have been. From the context cues of the story, we could see he's not able to move himself. He needs someone to move him for him, so he's unable to walk. But we don't know what the cause of that is. We also don't know, we're told that he's been an invalid for 38 years. Does that mean he's 38 years old? Or was this an accident that happened 38 years ago? Whatever it is, it shows us a very simple statement. That's a long time. 38 years is a long time to be longing for healing, to not be able to live a normal life, to basically wait for the day that water would stir. That is what his life is looking forward to, just in the hopes of being healed, longing for the day that he might live what society would call a normal life, hoping that this pool can give him that. And that man is met by Jesus in verse 6. It says, when Jesus saw him laying there and knew that he had already been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be healed?" Now, come on, Jesus, you're God. You're supposed to know the content of people's hearts. You can't put two and two together that this guy who can't move, laying right next to a superstitious healing pool, wants to be healed. You can't figure that out yourself? Now, this is one of those tricky Jesus questions where he's asking a question that seems to have a physical, a really tangible answer to it, but he's always asking for something more than that. I think back to last week with the woman at the well, when he's talking about water. And this woman, she's at a well, so she goes to, the water here? When Jesus is talking about something more, something that is a greater craving than she has. When Jesus talks to this man, "Do you want to be healed?" his mind is going to go to what he's been suffering from 38 years. And that makes sense that it would go there. But Jesus' question is always more than that. Looking for more than just this physical part, looking for more than just what he thinks is his greatest need. Do you want to be healed from everything? But again, his mind just goes to his physical need. Verse 7, the sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up. And while I'm going, another steps down before me." See, when we talk about superstitions, it's not just that we're looking at people who have something to try to give them comfort or something that they like, something that they believe in that gives them hope. The dangerous side of superstitions is it's easy to believe that the only thing that works is this thing. This man is looking for healing, and he thinks the only possible way that can happen is if he can get down to this water first. Have someone lift him up, the water's stirring, he's shoving people out of the way so he can get there first and be healed. That's the only place that he thinks can make him better. That's the only thing that he thinks will work for him, and it's this superstition. But it's not the only place. God is not limited by what we might believe he has to do. God is not limited by our superstitious beliefs. He's not constrained by those things. And we see that. So you pick it up in verse 8. And Jesus said to him, "Get up, take up your bed and walk." And at once the man was healed, and he took up his bed and walked. Jesus doesn't need to wait for the water to be stirred. He doesn't even need the pool. By his word alone, he is able to say to this man who cannot move to move, who cannot walk to walk, who is dependent on others, able to lift up his bed and go on his way. By his word alone, he shows his power to heal and to save, his authority over all things. This man had a very narrow way in how he thought God must work. It has to be through this pool. But he leaves this day with a greater understanding of the work of God.